Hey, it's Coach Scotty here from Warrior Code Training, and I've got a bit of a personal video that I'm doing today. I'm really excited to have Greg Nielsen with me here. He's the director of Camp Health, Hope, Happiness, which is, of course, Camp HeHoHa. Now, as many of you know, I have a special needs son, and we're very excited to send Caden to HeHoHa. But Greg has got a few things that he wants to talk about where they're looking for staff this year. So, Greg, welcome.
Thanks, Scott. So it's a pleasure actually being here today with you.
Yeah, it's been great. We've been chatting before we started today. And Greg, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? How did you get involved in HeHoHa and what's your role there?
For sure. Well, my story is a little bit different than you might anticipate. When I was a young lad and got out of college, I went into the oil and gas field. And I was doing instrumentation and started up my own business and was a self-contractor and figured the secret to life was more money, to wealth, and that's where my happiness would lie. And as it turns out, my parents were out at Camp HeHoHa in the early 90s. And I would come out on weekends and hang out with mom and dad, enjoy the lake life, go out on the lake boating and those types of things, and had some exposure to the campers that were here at Camp HeHoHa. And to be honest, I didn't know it at the time, but I think I fell in love with the organization and the mandate and the services we provide. But life went on, and I remember it was the spring of '96, and my dad called me up and he said, Greg, I'm building a climbing wall and a ropes course, and I could really use your hands for the summer. So I remember it distinctly because I was finishing up a contract at Meadow Lake. They were building a pulp and paper mill there, and I didn't have another contract lined up. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go out to the lake. I'm gonna, help dad build a climbing wall, enjoy some sunshine. And the moral of the story is I never left. That September came around and they're like, well, we need some help with maintenance. We've got a few other things to do. And I fell in love with being outdoors, not working the 9 to 5, living where I work, which has a lot of great perks. But the campers is what I really fell in love with. Hearing their stories, it just really put life into perspective for me. And I signed up in 1996 and I never have left. There's a few winters that I went back still thinking I needed some more money, and I did some contracting. But since March of '96, I've primarily been living here at Camp HeHoHa, and I've had quite a journey. I've filled a lot of different roles here. And in 2014, I took over as the executive director for my mother who retired. So it's kind of been a family tradition, and it's just been such a life lesson learning that there's a lot more than money. I think the Western world is very monetarily driven, but making a difference in people's lives and helping others is really what I'm passionate about. So yeah, that's how I ended up here.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, money's a tool, right? You can't build a house without a hammer, but you don't want a closet full of hammers.
No, and that's exactly it. And obviously coming out here, I had to take a huge pay cut, but the quality of life was amazing, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. And some of my best friends are people that come back year after year. I remember the first year I was out here, I met a young man who was involved in a motorcycle accident. He hit a moose on his motorcycle, and that not young man, he's my age now. We're about the same age back in 1996. He still comes back year after year he's coming as an adult camper now, and like we're friends. Like I get to spend a week with him once a year, and it's really powerful.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. So what Camp HeHoHa is Camp Health, Hope, and Happiness is. It's a camp for everybody to come and experience summer camp, and definitely children with special needs, Down syndrome, autism, but like you said, somebody who's been in a motorcycle accident, who has some cognitive differences and maybe some physical limitations. But it's about, let's get them wherever they're at, rock climbing. Let's get them kayaking, canoeing, swimming, playing soccer, playing like absolutely doing all the things, but being in a camp environment where that is fully supported for whatever needs you have. All right.
That's absolutely the case. Yeah. And so throughout each summer, for the last 60 years, 1960 is when we were founded, 60 some years, 62 years now, we've been providing camps for all ages. So the interesting part is you mentioned the teens and the children, but we also accommodate young adults and adults as well as seniors. So it doesn't matter what age, what type of disability, what challenge you're dealing with, what medical condition, you're welcomed here at Camp HeHoHa. And we set aside programs that are adapted each week, so 10 weeks throughout the summer, that will accommodate a young adult with a mental disability that wants to get out and play floor hockey and imagine he's in the Stanley Cup final, or drive the barge, or go fishing, or those
Yeah.
campouts, whatever it might be. Go to those evening dances and socialize with staff and campers and feel part of something bigger. And I think, Scott, the great thing that camp does is it provides a sense of community for a lot of these individuals, because I think, as progressive as society is right now, I think a lot of the campers that come are still marginalized in our society, and looked down upon or frowned upon or not accepted completely. And I hear routinely that, camp is my home because this is where I feel accepted and part of a group. And this is where my friends are. This is where I'm totally accepted. So, but yeah, it's all of those things, everything. We have an indoor swimming pool. We've got a barge program where campers go out and drive our motorized barge, whether people are using a wheelchair or not, they have access to that. We've got 18 holes of mini golf. We've got an archery program, a climbing wall, low ropes course that's adapted. So if you're using a wheelchair, you can still get around the ropes course, get out of your wheelchair, go down a zip line, climb a 40-foot wall, ring a bell. Sometimes, there's a little bit of sweat on someone's back to help that person get to the top, but, they've rang that bell and they feel accomplished. So arts and crafts, performing arts, it's unlimited. A campfire program, evening dances, skit night. If they want to dress up and be Connor McDavid, they can do that. So it's just it's a place it's magical for a lot of people. So
That's fantastic. I used to work as a camp in a camp called Enlightened Warrior Training Camp, and it was a personal development camp, and it ran every summer out at
right.
Dakota Lodge, and we ran 2 or 3 weeks of the summer, and I got to lead one of the events, and it was fascinating how there'd be a group of people, so 200 people in camp, so they would split them into 4 groups of 50, and they would come to my event, which was a mountain climbing event,
Right.
and it was a tribe versus tribe versus tribe competition to see who could get the most points, which meant you got the most people to the highest parts of the mountain in the time limit.
Okay.
And I always, as I got just the ooey gooey feels whenever a tribe would have somebody in their group that had just a disability or a challenge. Like they'd have somebody in a wheelchair, or somebody with Down syndrome, or somebody morbidly obese, or some challenge where mountain climbing just ain't their deal.
Yeah.
Right. And it was wildly powerful to watch them when they arrived at what we were doing. And then I explained, okay, this is what we're up to. And you see that peak up there, 3,000 feet above us? That's our goal. And you could see all of them go, oh, and they'd look at the dude in the wheelchair going, we are screwed. And you could see it.
Yeah.
And me loving it because it's like, you have no idea how amazing it is. You're going to blow your brain open when you realize how awesome it is that you have the gift of someone in
Yes.
a wheelchair.
To change
Because,
someone's life with that.
oh my gosh, like they would figure out. So I give them 20 minutes to prep, and they would figure out how to get a full grown human in a wheelchair up a mountain.
Yeah.
And it would change them. Like they would cycle, all the strong guys, instead of sprinting to the top, would go, okay, I'm going to sacrifice my 5 points. I'm going to take the 2 points and get everybody to peak 1. And then
Yeah.
if I can get that done, I'll sprint to peak 5 and I'll come back and I'll help carry you down. And the people that did that, their life changed and they got it. Like, listen, we can include everybody, but you just
Yeah.
have to make that effort.
It's such a powerful statement. And I have 100 movies running through my heads of situations just like that, where we're like, how are we going to make this happen? I had a little guy that showed up with meningitis one year. He had no arms and no legs, no limbs.
Yeah.
And his dream was to get to the top of the wall. Well, how do I safely keep this young man in a harness, first of all?
Yeah.
How do I physically get him to the top of the wall when he really has no physical ability to climb? But in going through that experience with him and the other staff members and the campers, it's life-changing. I mean, it changed his life and everybody that was down at the climbing wall. It was unbelievable. So
Yeah. It's the greatest thing. Nobody
yeah, it is the
cares.
greatest thing, and we often ask, like, are we changing campers' lives, or are they changing ours? And I
Yeah,
think honestly, they're changing ours more than we're doing for them. So
totally. Yeah, all
yeah,
of a sudden nobody cares about convention or points, or they don't matter. It's like we're
no,
to help this human being have this phenomenal experience. It's the greatest thing in the world.
yeah.
So
And I think that's the best part of being a staff member here at Camp HeHoHa is the like I can't sugarcoat it. I have so much respect for the staff that sign up for these positions every year because working with people with special needs at times can be challenging.
yeah.
Whether you're providing personal care, whether there's emotional needs being met, whether you're dealing with behavioral issues, it's hard. But what I hear routinely at the end of each day and the end of each camp is like we call them napkin moments. So, what's your napkin moment for the day? And sometimes they're the scariest, darkest, dirtiest stories, but they're the character builders in the summer experience. And hard work, long hours, but you're forever changed. And I believe if you put in an honest effort one summer at camp, you're capable of doing an ultra marathon or anything you want in life. Being a prime minister, if you want to be, whatever you set your mind to, you have the tools and the belief in yourself that I can tackle anything after 60 camp days at HeHoHa. Now I know that sounds like an Everest. They're staff are well supported. We have adequate ratios as far as campers and caregivers, but it's hard for young people. These are people sometimes it's their first summer job, but
Mhm.
it's a character builder. It's an absolute character builder.
Yeah, and so that's really one of the things I wanted to chat with you about, and the purpose of our talk, obviously
Mhm.
to shine a light on Camp HeHoHa, but also you're looking for staff, and it seems to be harder than ever to get staff. And I know what we've all been through in the last 2 years has created a lot of challenges and fears and shifts and all kinds of things. But
Mhm.
we're back to good again, and everything's awesome in that sense. So what does it look like to work at Camp HeHoHa in the sense that, if you're a person in university, or you're done grade 11 or grade 12 and you're looking for a summer job, um I ain't gonna spoiler alert, like, 'cause to me it makes a lot of sense because your accommodations are covered, your food's covered, your
Yeah.
lodging, and you got a bunch of friends to hang around with for a couple months, and you get paid to have fun and be at camp every day. Now, like you said, there's going to be some challenges, but what does it look like to work at Camp HeHoHa?
Yeah, that's a great question, Scott. And we get it a lot from potential applicants. And just a little backstory is we are struggling right now to get people to even apply. Um, we've kind of adopted the same practices we did pre-COVID. We've been applying across Canada at all the colleges and universities. So a prerequisite is to be 18 years of age and be
Okay,
enrolled in a post-secondary program. So
cool.
a lot of our applicants will come with nursing backgrounds. Maybe they're in the education program. They want experience, with people with special needs, rehab medicines, those types of things. So currently, as it stands today, our recruitment, the response has been very low compared to past years of pre-pandemic. But what can someone expect here at camp? So we're going to be hiring about 40 staff members this summer, all types of capacities. So we've got resource positions from arts and crafts leaders. We need lifeguards. We need waterfront experts with canoeing, climbing wall helpers, a barge driver. We're looking for a RN, so registered nurse, as well as a third-year nurse. A group of team leaders, so people that have experience with special needs, and then about 25 general counselors that are providing care in the cabins for people with special needs under the tutelage of a team leader. As I mentioned earlier in our visit, our groups are broken up into different ages and different types of disabilities. So our first camp scheduled for 2022 is a group of seniors. We pick our campers up from Edmonton for a lot of them. So some of our staff will go in on the buses, bring them back to camp to start our day. Other campers or staff are prepping cabins, getting ready with decorations and name tags and bed tags and all of that good stuff. But primarily, once campers arrive, we're getting to know our campers. We're becoming friends with them. We're providing any needs or any care that they might need as far as personal care. So we have 11-day orientation, and we're teaching staff everything they need to know, from personal care to personal hygiene to managing behaviors, paperwork, policies, protocols. So when it comes to personal care, we could be doing everything from helping someone shower to changing them if they're not able to, if they're incontinent. helping them eat, maybe cut up their food, dressing, all types of levels. And a lot of our campers come with a higher level of independence.
Mhm.
So maybe we're suggesting, clothing type based on the weather, those types of things. Remember your deodorant, Scott. It's, you don't want to be smelly around the ladies today, those types of things. And then our days are fairly structured. So we'll have a cabin group of 6 staff members with 16 campers, and they'll have a schedule for the day. So maybe the morning is spent down at the climbing wall. So we'll pack up water and sunscreen and get our campers ready for the climbing wall. We'll go down, we'll get in our harnesses with them. As staff, we get to climb the wall with our campers, encourage them, help them. We may be at waterfront, we might be making bannock that morning, we might be playing mini golf, archery, depending on what campers want to do. We might be in the swimming pool, we might be out on the barge fishing. Later in the morning, we're coming back to the rec hall to meet the nurses. So we're going to have some meds and then off to lunch. Afternoon, there's some quiet time. So we might get into a water fight. We might just have some quiet time with seniors, those types of things. And then more scheduled activity in the afternoon. So maybe we're at arts and crafts for an hour and a half, and then we're in the swimming pool for an hour and a half. Back to see our nurses for some meds, and then in for dinner again. And then there's an evening program where the entire group comes together. It might be skit night. So we might choose as a camper to dress up as Gretzky, and I'm going to dress up McDavid, and we're going to do a little skit where we score the Stanley Cup winning goal kind of thing. So everybody gets a moment to shine. And then back to the cabins for some quiet time. We've got evening meds, evening snack, get our campers settled around 10 o'clock. And then we're off to an evening meeting with our team and get ready for the next day. And that happens for 6 days. On the 6th day, our campers are back on the buses mid-morning. We come back and prep for the next week. And we go get off between 2 and 6 days in between. So we need some recharge days after that. So staff are often jumping in cars if someone has a car and going off to the mountains and doing some climbing or, cliff jumping or camping, whatever that might look like, into the city, whatever might be going on. So like I said, 6 days, it's grueling 6 days. Staff are working long hours. They're assigned a private room to be shared with another staff member. We provide all the meals for them. Really, all they need to do is get to the Edmonton airport. We pick them up there, bring them to camp. If they're out of province, if they have vehicles, get out to camp, and just really dive into having fun with people that are so appreciative of how you're helping them. So
Yeah, we should say where Camp HeHoHa is located.
yeah, we absolutely should. We're 85 kilometers west of Edmonton on Lake Isle. And we've got an amazing facility and infrastructure here. I think the common story I hear is I had no idea that what I would see at the end of the road when I drove, beyond the sign, 5 kilometers. So we're very fortunate to have what we have. And from staff that have worked at other camps around the country, they're like, this is pretty amazing what you folks have here. And we're grateful to have it and to have it to provide for Albertans, to give them a little bit of excitement. This is their Disneyland. A lot of our campers don't have an opportunity, whether they live in group homes or whether they're in care facilities, maybe single parent homes that don't have the resources to take them on a holiday. This is what they count down their days, starting from 359 when they left camp down to when they get to come back after their adventure. So
Yeah.
it's pretty important. But back to the staff members, you can expect anything and everything. And I think that's one of the great things about it, is you never know what next adventure lies ahead. And as long as you're willing to roll with the punches, you've got a good work ethic, you enjoy working on a team, you enjoy making a difference, you're going to be successful here. You're absolutely going to be successful and leave at the end of the summer feeling accomplished. Like we often say, do I want to be standing as a bank teller for 4 months in a bank, dealing with people that are maybe necessarily not that happy to be in there, or do you want to be out with people that really appreciate what you're doing and helping them with? So, but it's a choice, and it seems like a lot of people aren't interested in making that choice this year for some reason.
Yeah, there's a lot of fears have been developed in the last couple of years, and some of them rational, some of them not. Fear is rarely rational. But so when somebody signs on to work at Camp HeHoHa, I mean, honestly, part of me is like, I wonder if I could go.
Yeah, I could certainly put you to work this year.
Right, I know.
This summer.
I can't really peel off of my life enough to do that. But thinking, well, maybe when my son's old enough, I don't know. because it just sounds like so much fun. I used to run a rock climbing wall and I used to work in the mountains, and it just sounds like such a blast. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, there's hard work. Okay, it's great. But so when somebody arrives at Camp HeHoHa as a counselor, you arrive at, kind of on what day, and then there's orientation for a bit. Then you've got your first camp, you got a couple days off, then your next camp, and some days off, and camp, and days off, camps off. So your commitment's like a couple of months. So tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, it's a 4-month commitment. So we're assuming that everybody's in post-secondary. So they're finishing up their exams in April and they're available early May. So May 11th is our orientation schedule, orientation get together. And different groups are coming in at different times, but we're basically starting at May 11th. A couple different groups have some longer training than others. We go through 11 days of orientation. And as I mentioned, that's everything from providing personal care to dealing with behaviors, to just camp facility and becoming familiar. They'll get to go and climbing for the afternoon, so they're familiar with the equipment. They'll get out on the canoes, familiarize themselves with everything that they're going to be doing with campers. And then shortly after, I think there's a 2 or 3 day break after orientation. Our first group comes in. It's a 6-day program. They'll go on a 2 to 5 or 6 day break, and then the next group comes in, and it's constant till late August. So 60 actually days working with campers in addition to the 11 training days at the beginning of the summer. And pretty soon, before you know it, your 4 months are gone and you're ready to head back to your university program with, 39 new friends. And the interesting thing is, we have so many Facebook groups of staff, yearly staff groups, and these people are like lifelong friends.
Yeah.
So many people have gotten married as a result of meeting at camp. It's unbelievable. It's a really neat environment.
That's awesome. And yeah, I mean, if I think especially if you're a university student and you're studying any form of education or any form of nursing or care, like you're going to get experience like
Oh,
you'll never get anywhere else.
yeah, and that's a good point. And so what we do is we provide a letter of volunteerism. So throughout the summer, they're going to accumulate about 500 hours of volunteerism, which for people that are wanting to put that on their resume, Camp HeHoHa is a great reference for anybody trying to get into a kines program or whatever that might look like. So as well as getting paid throughout the summer,
Yeah.
there's over 500 hours of volunteer hours granted to them that they can take and put on their resume. So it's a wonderful experience. And I mean, for anybody that's going to be dealing with, I'm not going to say people with disabilities, just people in general that want more people skills, or they're going into a specialized field. It's an unbelievable opportunity to gain experience. And pre-COVID, often we would have staff come back for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, like consecutively every summer.
Mhm.
They'd fall in love with it. They knew the difference they were making, the friends they were going to make on the staff team, the camper friends, and they went through their whole university career, making Camp HeHoHa their job, summer job of choice, I guess.
That is so awesome. And so obviously you get paid as well. So I imagine there's different pay scales for different ability
Yeah.
and experience, but it's, you say volunteer hours, but it's not volunteer. It's a paid summer job.
So because we're running a summer camp, we have an exemption to only pay 8 hours a day.
Cool.
So the daily rate for a counselor is around, or not, hourly rate is around 17.30 or something an hour.
Sure.
So over an 8 hour day. But remember, we're starting at probably 7 in the morning in the cabin, 7:30, and we might be running till 10:30 at night.
Yeah,
So there's a portion of that day that is paid, and then there's a portion, 5 or 6 hours, that go on to a volunteer total.
that makes sense.
That's how they come up with their volunteer hours at the end of the day. So if anyone's interested and wants to visit our website, our contract rate is there for the summer
Sure.
on all the different jobs. And there are so many different jobs. From the RNs, obviously going to make a different rate than some of our other positions. So
Hmm.
yeah, and all the meals are accommodated. Special diets are accommodated if we do have people with special diets. There's no cost of gas going back and forth to work. Like I said, if you can get yourself here,
Yeah.
the accommodations are comfortable. They're nice. Yeah, it's like I said, if I was a young guy right now, I'd be jumping all over this.
I'm an old guy and I want to do it, but
Yeah, well, I hear you too. I would give anything to get down. One of my jobs when I first started here was the climbing wall facilitator,
yeah,
one of the hats I wore. And the last 2 years, obviously, we haven't had campers here, and I would do anything to spend the summer down there on the climbing wall again if we
yeah,
could get campers back this year.
yeah.
Because as much as I'm enjoying this challenge in the office and the role of executive director, like just every day was a box of chocolates down there. So
Yeah.
I'm excited.
And I think if kids would stop and think for a second too, you think, oh, it's 17, 18 bucks an hour, but you don't have to pay for accommodations and you don't
No,
have to pay for meals. Like,
no.
so, and you don't have to drive anywhere. You don't need gas money. So that 17, $18 an hour is like 30 bucks an hour if you think about it.
Well,
And
technically, yeah, technically your whole summer wage could go in the bank. I mean, the money is spent when they decide to go to Jasper and go
sure.
whatever they choose to do. But I mean, we all need some respite in some way, and there's going to
Yeah.
be some expenses associated with that. But a lot of people are more conservative and they're saving there for tuition and stuff. And
Yeah.
they have an option to stay at camp on days off as well. It's not as if they're thrown
Yeah.
off site. They have access to their room.
Yeah.
On days off, we don't provide meals, but we have one meeting room that has a stove and a fridge and everything in it. And people will do their own cooking and
Sure.
rest up rather than go off and spend money. So
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
right. And that is something to consider is you're not going back and forth to work. There's not a huge expense. You don't need, some people will let go of their apartments for or their residence for the summer months and just come out here and live. So
Yeah. That's awesome. Greg, I really appreciate your time today. I'm
thank
very
you.
selfishly want to send my son to camp. So
Yeah, and
when I heard you
want to
guys,
have them here so bad, Scott. We really do.
yeah, when I heard you guys needed staff, I'm like, well, I don't know what I can do, but if I can put it out to the world and maybe somebody hears this and their son or daughter comes out of university and this is their magic moment, it changes their life. I'm in. So I hope that
Nice.
people watching this feel that. And if this is for you, then I hope you'll reach out to Greg. What's the website again, Greg?
It's www.camphehoha.com.
Yep.
And yes, if they go into the summer job opportunities, everything's there for them to look. And if they have any questions, they can reach out to myself. My email is posted there, our phone numbers are there, and we'd be more than happy to talk to any potential staff members and answer any questions they might have. So,
That's
but
awesome.
before I go, I want to thank you, Scott, for taking this time to help us, just to share our story with your community and hopefully make a difference and give that gift of summer camp to Albertans with special needs and caregivers. I mean, the gift of us taking care of your little guy for 6 days so you and your wife can maybe go off on a Jasper vacation without that responsibility. It's important for caregivers as well. So, but thank you for taking the time.
You're very welcome. Thanks a ton, Greg. I wish you the
Thank
best
you.
of success in filling all of your positions this year. And so if you guys are out there and you're wondering, this is the deal. This is what you want to do. You want to get your university kids out to Camp HeHoHa so they get the best experience. They make good, solid wages and have a great time and help in a way that really matters. Thanks a bunch, Greg.
Thank you, Scott. Take care.
Yeah, you too.